Thank you for watching or listening. I'm Mark Pennell, along with Paul Sartorelli. He's the lead pastor here at Trinity. I'm a little bit uncomfortable about today because I used up all my notes in the last program, and we're still talking about the 9th commandment, which is do not give false testimony against your neighbor. Well, but the thing is, it's good. That shows that I'm the curious one and you're the one with all the answers. So you have 20 minutes to talk.
I don't have a whole lot of answers, but I thought we sort of got off on a rabbit trail about the truth of Christianity, and that ultimately that truth is not only just a factual truth, but it can be an experiential truth when a person actually receives Christ as their Savior. Right. The truth that he died on the cross and rose again, yes. The truth goes deeper when someone actually applies it and receives it by faith. That's when it really experiences. We got off on that because we're talking about truth. And the command is do not lie. We live in a society that is inundated with truths and half-truths and lies. And I don't think it was our former president, but he said it a lot about the fake news. And it's everywhere. I mean,
I have to interrupt you on that because I was in radio for many, many years. And I worked with a lot of different news departments. And I got into a discussion, shall we say, got a little bit warm in that discussion with the news director. And he said that he looks at news in an unbiased way. And I said, that's impossible.
It is.
We cannot approach any subject at all in our lives without having some bias, which means that alone leads us to not be honest.
Yes. That's important to hear that. We all have grids, which is also why it's important to be in the scriptures as often as you can, because the scriptures can become the important grid in your life, but you'll always have a bit of a bias, how you looked at it. You know, I may look at something as a former Italian and you look at it as a Northern European. There are different ways we can look at it. It's important to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, sports fans do that all the time. They will go against an athlete from another team that committed a crime. Oh, he's the dirtiest player in the world. And you hear it all the time. But when especially now, which has really disgusted me as a Browns fan.
Big time.
But when that athlete, oftentimes it happens though, when an athlete on your team commits a crime, you've got every excuse in the world to back him. And it's like, okay, we don't often quote Friedrich Nietzsche on this show, but I will this time because he said something profound. And I'll have to explain it because it's going to sound, and he says this, there are no facts, only opinions. Now, here's what he's saying.
No, I agree.
There are facts. Hear us say that. There are historical, objective facts. But he was saying it from a human perspective.
That's right.
There's only the opinions about those facts. And so I said it last week, the best history books you will find are not going to be the history of Israel or the history of Rome. It's a history of Rome, because no matter how much of a scholar that historian was in writing that history book, it's still going to have a perspective and an angle that whether it was intended or not, it's going to have. So,
yeah, hence the reason you have to have more than one witness in a trial, because even though they might see exactly the same thing, that one's going to have a different view than the other.
It's so true. And so let's back up a tiny bit. We were talking about fake news. At times, the inability to be 100% objective is innocent. I think it is. In the last 10, 20 years, as you and I have been watching this country divide, I'm afraid the opinions of the left and the right news is not innocent. It's intentional, and the stories that they tell and the exaggerations that they stretch, all of that, I think it's very intentional. And the sad thing is, it is just dividing this country up more and more. And what did Abraham Lincoln say? He was quoting Jesus, but he said, a nation divided against itself will not stand. And to be honest with you, I'm saddened about the future of this country, at least the immediate future. Okay, so we started by saying people lie a lot, and they do. But here's the thing, too. We can tell a whole lot of whoppers as well. And in preparing for the show, I thought I'd just have some fun. And
I don't. Oh, that was a lie. Anyway.
I created what I call a liar, liar, pants on fire meter.
Okay.
And I have particular people that I thought I would describe, and you and I can talk about them and see if you identify yourself as you take the test on the meter to see if you identify yourself with any of these. First person on the meter. I call them the Blowfish.
Oh.
This person puffs themselves up with exaggerations, with stretching their accomplishments, or who they've rubbed shoulders with. So, LeBron James is my best friend. I ran into him at the mall in Beechwood a couple of years ago. It could be anything. The books that you didn't read but are on your shelf. Or
what about driving around in an Audi A8 when you really don't have the budget to handle it?
Right.
Isn't that kind of this is my image thing?
That's a blowfish. You're telling the truth. You're not telling the truth about yourself.
Right.
So that's blowfish. You puff yourself up to make yourself look better. I think people do that on their resumes, which be careful
and it's
of
encouraged.
that. Yes, it is.
Okay. Anyway.
So number one, a blowfish. Do you blowfish? Second is a bully. That is constantly telling gossip or innuendos about other people. The media is all too good at this.
Big time.
Trying to tell stories. I'll tell stories about you to tear you down so that I'm being a bully and to make myself look better. Media does it all the time to people. And we live in a society
Our politicians.
Yes, they do. Don't you hate it?
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh, I'm just so tired of it. And we live in a society that no longer has grace, no longer can take a joke. And so one misstep and we are going to bully you till you're out of the picture.
Right. Your life is ruined. You've been marginalized and that's it.
I knew a pastor. I still know him. He's a good friend of mine, was pastoring of a church, and some of his staff members were not that crazy about him.
Okay.
I think unjustifiably so. He took the sermon title of another famous pastor.
Okay.
And he called that his sermon.
Okay.
And they started a witch hunt on him for plagiarizing, for this and for that. Another friend of mine, they called him in to investigate to see if he was a plagiarist, and there was no plagiarism whatsoever. But what was going on was bullying, stretching the facts, trying to exaggerate about this man's character, and it almost destroyed him. Truth, the lack of truth can really destroy people. So this is the liar, liar, pants on fire meter. Blowfish, you exaggerate. The bully, which is innuendos meant to hurt somebody. Thirdly, the elephant.
Okay. I'm interested in that one.
The elephant is very common. Usually,
my favorite animal, by the way.
Is it really?
Oh, I think they're wonderful.
And you'll hear why I call it the elephant. I see this a lot with people that have gotten divorced or the people that have left jobs. And they will tell stories about their ex-boss or their ex-spouse because they never forget. And they tell it again and again. And sometimes the story conflates and it grows. And so pretty much after a while, you're saying, how did you ever marry this monster? Because they're telling the story again and again and again.
And they also have never forgiven.
Yes, exactly. That's the elephant.
Oh, interesting. Good one.
So you telling the story, be careful of that. Telling the story of never forgetting and even exaggerating the story. Now, your boss may have been a real piece of work. Move on. And like Mark said, when you can't move on, it's a good example that you haven't forgiven. Fourthly, this is the soap bubble.
I love these titles.
I had some fun preparing for this. The soap bubble. You know what it is? Hey, I'll call you next week. I have no intention of calling you whatsoever. Or in the church, we do this a lot. I'll pray for you.
Oh, gosh.
And I never prayed for you. Yeah. It's the soap bubble. It's you're the best. We talked about it last week. This is the best meatloaf I've ever... Soap bubble. It wasn't intended to have any weight whatsoever or meaning or truth.
And it popped.
I'll call you.
Yeah.
And I never called you.
Oh, interesting. Very good one. Good one.
Okay, last one.
I'm not feeling convicted at all.
This one is the escape artist. When the heat is turned on, okay, you have a report due at work Tuesday last, and your superior comes and says, "Where's the report?" When the heat is turned on, you become an escape artist. And the easiest way for you to escape, you lie. Either you blame your wife that got sick.
The dog ate my homework.
We did it in high school. The dog ate my homework. That's the escape artist.
Okay.
Your wife catches you in a compromising situation, maybe on the computer, and you lie. That's the escape artist. All that to say, from the very beginning, God gave us some really clear instructions about integrity and about ethics. And one of the key ones, do not lie. Let me read you a verse from the Proverbs. I'm sure you've heard it many times before, but it's how much God dislikes when we don't tell the truth. It's out of Proverbs 6. The Lord hates 6 things.
I can't believe you said that because I've got that written down.
Do you really?
Yeah. I only have one of them, but.
In fact, 7 are detestable to him. Arrogant eyes, and here's the second one, a lying tongue. And then he goes on, because he almost sounds repetitive. Hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that plots wicked schemes, feet that's eager to run to evil. Now, here's the next one. A lying witness who gives false testimony.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, here it comes again. And this last one, I'm sorry, could almost be in this category too. And someone who stirs up trouble among brothers. Wow. And the easiest way to do it is to lie. Okay, so I thought, let's turn the corner and give a little hope here. Honesty maybe is something you struggle with. Or maybe your child struggles with. How do I teach my child to tell the truth more often? Here's a couple of suggestions. Can we talk about them? First one, it's really profound. Choose not to lie.
Oh, that's a good one. Really?
Make a choice.
Wow.
Choose not to lie. You said James is one of your favorite books.
And that's it for this week.
James, what does he say? Bridle your tongue.
Oh, my.
Think about it. And your daughter loves horses. Tell us about a bridle.
A bridle is, first of all, it's going to guide the horse around. It's a little thing, it just you put it in the horse's mouth, and you can, has a bit, and you can get that horse to do anything.
Tell me about an unbridled horse.
It's going to go wild.
Tell me about an unbridled tongue. It's going to go wild.
Yeah.
So bridle your tongue.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Interesting. Yeah.
Secondly, depend on the Spirit. Depend on the Holy Spirit. He's called the Spirit of truth.
Yes.
Yield to the Spirit. And that means when you're with the Lord, when you spend time in His Word, when prayer and meditation is a part of your life, you will feel that internal governor. And when you're about to say that whopper and you feel that, yield to it. Yield to it. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, all of those things. The Spirit will produce those things in you, which will overcome the lie.
Who was the one that said, slow to listen? Is that right?
Yeah, that was James.
James, okay. Look, part of it is
quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger.
There you go. Quick to listen, slow to speak. In other words, hold off a minute. If you're going to find yourself saying something that's going to be not truthful,
yes,
just shut up for a second and think about it. Yeah, very good.
Listen and listen and listen. Later on in the book of James, he'll compare our tongues to a fire that puts the whole world on fire.
Isn't it amazing? This little teeny muscle can do incredible damage.
Yes, it can destroy. It'll destroy your world.
Yeah.
Choose not to lie. Depend on the Spirit. And the last thing I wrote was be part of a community of truth. And the community of truth can be small or big. But first of all, it speaks the truth with the aim of building up. So if you see, Mark and I are good friends. We've been friends for many, many years. If one of us sees something that the other one is doing, we're going to tell them.
Yeah.
With the aim of building up.
Yeah.
You got a little egg right here, or something more serious. Our agenda is encouragement. It's love. It's growth. But
to tear us down is
yes,
the opposite.
If I'm a lone ranger, if I have no friends, then there's nobody in my community of love that's going to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
I'm convinced we live in a day where more and more pastors are falling like flies.
Isn't that sad?
Morally and otherwise.
What's happening?
Part of it, not a one of them have a friend. Not a one of them have somebody nearby them that is saying, hey, you're believing your press releases, pal. Hey, what happened to the kind shepherd I knew a few years ago? You seem to be so much into power and vision, and you're such a great, a friend is somebody that's going to, what does Proverbs say? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. A friend is going to slap you up now and then when you need it.
So it's because of me that you're a good pastor.
I think partly, yes. But I'm on it. In some ways, yes, you keep me humble. I'm not a big cheese. And in a community of love, more than just not lying, it defends the truth. A friend of mine leads a ministry in India. He's Indian. And so he speaks the truth not only about the dignity of every human being, including those at the bottom of the caste system. He will argue against the lie that some people are better than other people. So in a caste system, I'm thinking of my friend, in a caste system, those at the top of the caste are the best, and those at the bottom have no rights at all. And so he's able to speak into that to say, no, this is a lie, and yes, these people have dignity as well. And he says it within a community, and now that community can affect a nation, and we can too.
Back to what you were saying about the friendship being, wouldn't it be wonderful if we, with all the people that we shared our lives with, that we could trust whatever they're saying, trust everything that they're saying? Shortly after I became a believer, I had a friend that owned a Jetta, a red Jetta, and he wanted to sell it. And he tried to tell me about how great it was. Well, he had told me not too long ago that he had disconnected the speedometer on it. This was in the days when you could do that. So he was trying to sell me his friend, a car that I had no idea how many miles it had.
Oh my.
That was when I said, I guess we're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
That just really blew my mind when I saw that. I know that's really a big distortion, but
no, but that's...
Isn't that a wonderful thing that you can have friends
because there's trust and there's truth. And the friends is not just this. If you're listening to this program and you're not in a church, you need to be in a church. And if you're in a church and you're not in a small group, you need to be in a small group because that's where truth is told. Truth about life, truth about Christ. And in many ways, in the church and in the groups, you're keeping the main thing, which is Christ loves you. He wants to change you. And we are meant to live lives as followers of Christ. Lone rangers will fall every time, and the dishonesty of their life will catch up with them. Can I end with Colossians chapter 3? When you read about the do not bear false witness, and especially in Deuteronomy, the consequences seem so severe. They're fearful of the punishment. The Apostle Paul now, as believers, the reason that we tell the truth is because that we don't want to be inconsistent with our new self in Christ. I just want to end our show with this. He says this, do not lie to one another, since you have put off your old self with its practices, and you have put on the new self. You are being renewed in knowledge according to the image of your Creator. In other words, don't lie. If you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you are a new person. You are a person that lives in the truth of Christ, and our lives ought to be a reflection of that truth. The old you is gone with all of its insincerity and falsehood. The new you is here. Tell the truth to one another.
One of the things is God will convict you about how much you're lying or this and that as the more you grow. So it's a great feeling to know that that's being taken away or chipped away and that you're being able to see the truth. And
choose to live that way.
Yeah. Well, to steal a line from one of our favorites, Steve Brown, he says at the end of his little thing at it was like 15 minutes long, and it's fantastic. And he'll say, you think about that.
Yes.
So do, and we'll be back for Commandment 10.